Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeCharis, CPA extraordinaire, coming to you live from downtown Bethpage, Long Island, New York, for another amazing episode of How to Win at Business. And tonight, folks, uh, we're going to start on a new journey talking about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is actually the probably the most talked about non-issue that accountants, financial advisors, and very few other people seem to get involved with. It's always the politicians, and what we're talking about is Social Security taxes. Because when you peel away all the onion skins about why it's so hard to start a new business, why it's so hard to get through all the hoops to stay in compliance, to pay all the freaking taxes that they're hitting. And it's not just taxes anymore, it's all these little nickel and dime user fees. Oh, we have another registration fees. Those are just taxes disguised as something else. So the biggest tax, the biggest potato that politicians can bounce around is Social Security. And the fact is that Social Security is antiquated, folks. So I'm going to start saying things that will shock people. We need to get rid of Social Security altogether. Okay. It's not doing what it was meant to do. It's doing the reverse, which is what the government usually does. You know, the old saying, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. No, what they do is they want to raise more revenue, so they raise taxes. Well, hello, politicians. You wind up raising less taxes because people that pay the taxes uh, stop doing business. Maybe somebody should look at history, but part of the history with Social Security was to help poor people, to put food on the table for people that were economically disadvantaged as a result of the depression. That's it. So Social Security started in 1935. And the interesting thing is when you go on the government websites and you start looking at the history of stuff, they didn't start with the history of Social Security in 1935, what the political climate was, why it had. They went back to like caveman times when governments and societies would set up the safety nets for poor people. That has nothing at all to do with Social Security and what it's become. And it no longer helps just poor people. It helps rich people too, because Warren Buffett is probably collecting $3,800 a year in Social Security taxes. Uh, who's the guy? All of them, rich people. I have clients that are wealthy, not like Mark Zuckerberg wealthy, but they're collecting Social Security. And it's great. It's great that they're getting that money. I don't besmirch them for that. They're entitled to it. They paid in. That's what the system was. But it's not changing their life. It's not changing their life. It's just more money they can spend or invest. But it's not putting the chicken in the pot like Teddy Roosevelt said, or whoever it was that created this monster. In the beginning, it was needed. It was necessary because we had a whole country of people walking around. We had millions of what we call homeless people. Now we had millions of unemployed hobos. People we thought were drunks. That the truth is that they were just out of work. There was no safety net. There was nowhere for them to get money. Very little avenues, and the government failed. The government failed those people. They didn't prepare for it. So now what they did was they set up the safety net, and a bunch of things happened in between. people started living longer, uh, just a whole bunch of stuff that made the whole system suspect. But the biggest problems that happened is the fact that it became a political uh, asset. Okay, they started using Social Security in ways that I can't even understand. To be honest with you, they started using it to close the budget deficit, saying, "Oh, we have all this money, so the government isn't really." Hello, hello. Let's go back to simple accounting procedures. And if this was a business, they'd be charged criminally. They'd be charged criminally, because now this is where we are, folks. This is where we are today. For a person to start a business, let's say they start a business because they just can't find a job that's going to pay them enough to pay their bills. And a lot of them live below the poverty level, and they make, let's say 40, let's say they make 40,000 a year, and they're trying to support a family. Believe it or not, there are people that are doing that. uh, 40,000 a year net profit for a sole proprietor is going to cost them about 6 grand in self-employment taxes. That's about $500 a month. $500 a month is the rent for some of these people. I mean, you know, it's exorbitant in proportion to what they're making. Now, I'm not saying that Social Security is bad, or it's out of control. It failed. It failed. It didn't stand the test of time, and it needs to be revamped. We need to find other ways to pay for these programs. And I don't know. I'm not a politician. I'm an accountant. And the fact of the matter is that all of these years I've been trying to figure out, why is it so tough for small businesses to succeed. And it comes down to, yeah, they don't have enough money to begin with. Who has enough money to start a business? Nobody. If you have enough money, it means that you got a rich uncle or access to money, and somebody gave it to you. And that's not always the best way to start a business either. But the fact is that I lost my train of thought. But the fact is, yeah, here it is. So it's hard to start a business. It's hard to do anything successfully. That's a given. Getting to the root cause of the problem has always been my goal, and I believe that I put my finger on the main problem. Because first I thought it was because of the 25 million sole proprietors that are out there. Because I know, as a CPA, doing business as a sole proprietor is absolutely the worst way to do it. And it made no sense to me that so many people are doing business as a sole proprietor. And I talk about this all the time. LLCs are not a tax strategy. LLCs are a legal strategy. So all the people that have become LLCs, you're still a sole proprietor for tax purposes if you're a single member. Or if you told the IRS, hey, I formed myself as an LLC, I want to be taxed as a corporation. So the first issue is, why are so many not converting? Because it just doesn't make sense on a mathematical standpoint. Because and there's all kinds of information out there, all kinds of myths and lies about, oh, you should do X amount of money before you incorporate. Oh, you should wait until you're doing X amount of business, or you should wait a year. No, if you're serious about your business, you incorporate, and then you find somebody like me that knows about business expenses and maximizing tax write-offs. That's how you do it. But so I came to this number and not really coming up with the only explanation I can come up with is it's by design. The government, the SBA, the IRS, Congress, they don't want people to become corporations because they have less control. If all the people did what I said they should do, guess what? Social Security would have a lot bigger problem, because the net profits of sole proprietors are taxed at 15%. 15%. Now, if I own real estate and I make $100,000 profit, I'm paying zero Social Security taxes. But if I'm a sole proprietor, I'm paying 15 grand. Why is that? Ask yourself, why do real estate investors get special treatment? Well, real estate investors are normally wealthy people, okay? And wealthy people, politicians, the people that make the laws, that make the rules up, decided that real estate is not going to be so. Well, how about if we make it subject to self-employment tax? Let's even out the playing field. Now, believe me, I love real estate. I have friends, clients that are in real estate. It's great that you don't have to pay FICA tax on it. I should have went into rental real estate a long time ago. Uh, but you got to ask yourself, well, why are passive activities? And I know, they could say, well, it's passive, you're not. And then they come up with these arbitrary rules about, okay, you're an employee. And now we get the whole issue of independent contractor versus employee. So let's get down to what the real issues are, because you can't solve a problem unless you know what it is. And the reasonable compensation, the whole thing about, oh, if you're a corporation, you got to take a set. Well, why are they so adamant about this? Why were they so adamant about getting people 1099s? I understand they're not paying income taxes, and that's not right either. So the government is closing in on us little by little by design. They've made practically all of our transactions traceable through electronics. You can hide. If you think you're cashing checks and they don't know, you're wrong. Uh, they probably have access to our bank accounts. Who knows? Let's just accept the fact that every transaction is out there for the IRS, the state and local governments to see exactly what we're doing. So there is no real hiding under the radar. You could follow the rules and dot all your I's and cross all your T's and lower your risk of being audited. But the fact is that they are looking. Okay. And what are they looking for? Why are they scrutinizing uh, sole proprietors and this whole reasonable compensation? You got to take a salary. Why? Because of the Social Security. It all comes down to that 15% that they just can't let go of. So there's a lot of things wrong with this, the way it's being taxed. I could tell you that their reasons for not coming up with an alternative are ridiculous. They say, so let's change to a tax based on wealth or increase in net worth. Well, they say that's too complicated. Well, it seems pretty damn complicated to calculate whether or not somebody's an officer and what their salary should be, because you could ask 100 accountants and experts and they're all going to give you a different number based on the same scenario. Let's take a sole proprietor making 40 grand a year and make him an S corp. He has a 40,000 net profit. Okay, he's below the poverty level. He's trying to support, a wife and two kids. They barely can put food on the table. They probably qualify for food stamps. You're going to put him on a salary and tell him he's got to pay $500 a month in payroll taxes? I'm not. I'm incorporating him, and I'm going to challenge the IRS to come in and tell me that he should have been paying $6,000 a year. Okay, I'm going to find people that are willing to do that, put themselves on the line, because I believe it's time to bring this issue out. It's time that we call it what it is. They are putting an unfair burden on sole proprietors, the smallest of small businesses that have to decide between, do I stay as a sole proprietor and have no control, or do I incorporate like all the wealthy people do and have some say in what I'm paying in FICA taxes? It's as simple as that. It's the small business owner against FICA taxes, Social Security taxes. Now, I can come up with some pretty out of the box ideas. How about giving them an exemption? How about this? If a sole proprietor makes $10,000 on December 31st and pays the cost of earning that 10,000 on January 1st, they pay 9,000. And well, guess what? They're going to pay $1,500 in self-employment tax for that December 31st payment, and they're going to get no tax benefit at all from the 9,000 that they spent. So they actually made $1,000, but they paid 1,500 in FICA taxes. Is that a profit or a loss? I say that's a loss because you're out 500. You just did business and you're out $500. Now take it the opposite way. Let's say on December 31st, I paid somebody, a sales rep, $9,000 to produce this sale for me. I get no tax benefit because I get no taxable income that year, but on January 1st, I get paid. Well, next year I get to pay $1,500 in self-employment tax. Does that make any sense to anyone? If it does, if it doesn't, I'd love to hear from you. Just go to timewithjoe.com. I'm going to be talking about this a lot, probably until it changes. But something's got to change, folks. Something's got to change because it's just not right. It's not right that Warren Buffett gets money that was really designed to help poor people. Okay, think about that. It was designed to help poor people. Now, poor people, a lot of poor people are paying in. Let me give you one more example, and then I'm going to call it quits for tonight. A lot of senior citizens have had to go back to work. Okay, working at places like McDonald's to get a paycheck to help pay their rent, put food on the table. Okay, it's terrible that that even had to happen, and that's what Social Security was supposed to help not happen. But they get a paycheck and they're still paying into Social Security. Is that ridiculous? Look, think about that. They are working because Social Security did not cover their expenses, or it helped but not enough, and now they're paying in more. Something's got to change, folks. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. God bless. Have a great evening. Over and out. And I will see you again shortly for another amazing episode.